Hello and welcome to the Walter Schmid Show. Here today is another day than usually because I have a very special guest. It's not just a real estate broker, it is something completely different, but in the real estate as well. He's a real estate artist. I don't want to talk too much about that because I want to give the word to this amazing. And I can say he is the number one real estate artist, also international best-selling book author, and he has run already 12 ultra marathons on 135 miles each. Now, don't tell me that is not special. I'm very honored and I really welcome you here. Frank McKinney, great to have you here.
Walter, I was supposed to be over in your beautiful country of Switzerland in person. I'm assuming we're in Switzerland, correct?
Yes, I'm in Switzerland.
I was supposed to be there, as you know, through a win was going to bring me over there, a good friend of yours, and then this wonderful, let's call it a serious cold, it kept us from being together in person. But we will be there. We will be coming to your country, and if not, you're going to be coming to my treehouse because this is where I'm coming to you from. In South Florida, in Delray Beach, in my treehouse office where I wrote all 7 of my books, and I also designed the houses that you speak of. When you call me a real estate artist, for people who are wondering what exactly is that, I don't draw pictures of real estate or I don't paint pictures. I create 3-dimensional art that you live in, meaning I build houses or design houses and then build houses and then furnish the houses on the beach, on the ocean, on the Atlantic Ocean in Palm Beach, Florida. And so the artistry comes in the creation of these beautiful houses. I've built 38 of them. I build them on speculation, so there's no buyer in mind. Almost like in your business, it would be like building a yacht without a buyer, which most of them actually are built without a buyer, and then a lot of them are sold. So that's what I do. Is I build these houses and I sell them for an average selling price of, over the 30 years of my career, $14.5 million US. And I've sold to a couple of people from Switzerland over those years. So that's the definition of what I do for a living. But I had the benefit of meeting you and a couple of other people from Switzerland at an event about a year ago in California, where I was a keynote speaker. And I'm really honored that I'm in your living room and I'm in your country today.
Thank you. Appreciate that as well. And as I have seen as well, you have an amazing story behind you in your life. And this is not something just like everybody lives the life. And everything that you have told now, that leads me to several questions that I would like to ask you, because it's a very important question to me, which is especially what you do and how you do it is why. I mean, what is the why that you do what you do? Because that's something that a lot of people don't have anymore in their lives. The why they do what they do. What is it in yours?
So the question really should begin to be answered through the other single word, aspiration. The why in life means purpose. What is your purpose in life? And human beings need 2 things. They must have 2 things: purpose and appreciation. Purpose for what they do, being appreciated for what they do. And my aspiration when I moved to Florida, when I was 18 years old, without the benefit of pursuing a formal education, I did not go to university. I barely made it out of high school with a 1.8 grade point average, which in the United States is barely passing. And I aspired to leave a legacy that I and my family could be proud of. And when I realized I liked artistry, I liked the performing arts, I liked 2-dimensional art, I like sculpture, I like music, I like instruments, I like singing, but I didn't have a talent there, Walter. My talent, I found, my professional talent, that is, lied in finding opportunity on this beautiful, you see me looking up because the ocean is right over there, finding opportunity on this beautiful sun-drenched canvas called the Atlantic Ocean, creating artistry, 3-dimensional art that ultra-wealthy people can live in, just like your yachts. These ultra-wealthy people they can live in your yachts, they can live in the houses that I build. And I design these like almost private resorts where I'm able to touch the 5 senses of my buyer: sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste, and heighten the experience my buyers have with their 5 senses to the state of subliminal euphoria, meaning they're intoxicated with the experience of those five senses when they walk in the front door of one of my, say, $15 million homes. That's the why. I finally found I found it pretty early in my life, actually, in my 20s, my professional highest calling. Everybody watching this or listening to this has a professional highest calling, which is a gift God gave you to do something to make money a little bit better than most people. So for you, and you're coaching people with yacht brokers and trying to be the best yacht broker, well, your gift is in coaching people to do that. That is you do that better than most. Not better than everybody, because that's egotistical. You do it better than most. And with me, I was so fortunate to have found this calling, if you will, to create this artistry that is some of the most stunning real estate that you'll ever see in the world.
I have seen some pictures of the houses that you have built, and I would love to live in one of those, of course, because they are just amazing. I mean, I was blown away when I saw that. And as a former cabinet maker and carpenter, I also know what it means about having or living in a tree house, even though I haven't lived in a tree house, but I saw one or two. So that's something very special. And you talk about the higher calling, so to say that word as well, to find the purpose in your life. But there are a lot of people, they struggling to finding their purpose. Is there something that because you use the word aspire, but
yeah,
the purpose, what is it that you think, or how does someone who doesn't have or haven't found or haven't seen realize what his person or her purpose is, how can people realize what it is? I mean,
okay. I like to keep things very, very simple and start very, very simple. And the first chapter in my new book, Aspire, which is coming out in a few months.
I have.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. You were the first one from Switzerland. I gave Awen credit to her home country in Iran, and I gave you the credit for Switzerland. So the first chapter of my book asks the question, who do you aspire to emulate? Who do you look up to? Who do you aspire to pattern your life after? And that's the starting point, because sometimes we don't know what our professional highest calling is, but we are attracted to certain lifestyles that you've seen people live, and or the way that they choose to carry themselves in a public setting, the way that they relate to humanity, that I would, as a young uneducated person that didn't have the benefit of school, I started to aspire to emulate, to copy, to absorb a little bit of their DNA into mine. And that led me to the next question is, Frank, what legacy do you aspire to leave behind? And that takes a little bit longer to answer. When you think about who do you aspire to emulate, it could be Mother Teresa or Jesus, or, in my case, I have some fictional characters that I aspired to emulate, that actually, Willy Wonka, Robin Hood, these are characters that I tried to emulate as a young boy, and it stuck with me. If you look at some of the marketing, Evel Knievel, which was an American daredevil that you'll see pretty soon in a video, that I was inspired by him to kind of follow in his footsteps. So that if you're watching or listening, the first step to finding purpose, if you're really lost and not sure, is whose life would I like to live? Whose lifestyle would I like to live? And then you start to pattern. Don't copy anybody. You want to be your own self, but you start to absorb pieces of that lifestyle into your own, and that will lead you to that purpose.
So how important then is our authenticity? Because you say you don't copy others, but you look what others do. They live a life that you want to live, but you want to live that life in your way. So authenticity is something I think also crucially important. Is that also part in your book, or is it some?
Yes, it is. Yes, there is a part of my book. It's good that you bring this up. So there's two ways to address the authenticity issue. One is you should never compromise your person or your beliefs for anyone or anything. Now, for you watching this that are new to Frank McKinney, you're saying, wait a minute, this guy has a jean jacket on. He's got purplish color hair. I mean, wait a minute, he doesn't look like I'm a businessman. I chose not to compromise who I am, what I represent, ever. This is kind of the way I was when I was a teenager, or, my 20s. I said, this is the businessman that I choose to be. That's being authentic to yourself. The second part of authenticity is the way that you do business, the way that you market your personal brand, which we're going to talk about in a second.
Mhm.
And that is, in the United States, we have a vehicle that is called an all-terrain vehicle. Maybe the same thing in Switzerland. Most people listening to this will understand what an all-terrain vehicle is. It's like a four-wheel vehicle that goes on all terrains.
Yeah, yeah, we have that as well.
You understand, right? You know what an all-terrain vehicle is. Take the acronym ATV, all-terrain vehicle. A stands for authenticity. T stands for transparency. V stands for vulnerability. Be authentic, be transparent, be vulnerable, be willing to show your soft underbelly, there's no sense in being this hardened shell of a businessman, a ruthless, nasty businessman. I've chosen to live my life and conduct my business with authenticity, transparency, and vulnerability, and it's led me to the top of my profession.
I think that's part of what people can see in your arts as real estate, that also there's vulnerability available or actually in the house, because I think that's emotional, very, very attractive, or it attracts a lot of emotions, like in the yachting as well. So it's a great explanation. Now, don't talk about everything of your book, because otherwise people don't need to read it anymore. And
there's 25 chapters in here. There's plenty. But I will say that if I were just to give a brief overview, it's really, this is my 7th book, and all the others are fantastic, but this one really gets to the core of the subtitle of the book is How to Create Your Own Reality and Alter Your DNA. So for those listening and watching, there was a movie out that depicted the life of Elton John, and it was called Rocket Man. And in Rocket Man, I'm not a big movie person, by the way, but there's a line in there where his manager says to Elton John, who was called Reginald Dwight before he, changed his name, mm-hmm. Kill the person you were born to be to become the person you want to be. And that's the kind of behind my book, creating your own reality, Walter. Stop following the reality that you see on your small screen, your phone, on your medium screen, your computer, or your big screen, which is your television. Mm-hmm. I am working from a treehouse. I have worked up here for 20 years. It allows me to create the beautiful homes and the beautiful books that I write because I have created my own reality. And in turn, Walter, I've killed the person I was born to be. By the way, I was born to be a banker because my grandfather and father were bankers. Mm-hmm. And I became the person I wanted to be. Yeah. So when people get Aspire, and by the way, they can go to theaspirebook.com, just theaspirebook.com, and see some interesting things.
You will see just right now here on the bottom where you can order the book, where you get all the information, and later on we will bring in a short part of the movie that you have made for the book Aspire, but this will come in a few minutes later.
Great. Yeah, so I really am intending to, and by the way, I did travel across the country gathering information in a car, in a Yugo, which I'm not sure many people in Switzerland will know what a Yugo is, but it was made in Yugoslavia, now Serbia. And I have 2 remaining Yugos. I took one across the country, 6,300 miles, gathering information, interviewing Americana, humanity on topics such as aspiration. And why motivation doesn't last, and why inspiration doesn't last. And it's really the aspiration to do something greater than you're doing right at this very minute, so that a year from now you can look back and say, I remember that minute. I remember that conversation with Walter and Frank, and that really aspired me to do something greater. Because if at the end of the conversation, all I've done is motivate you or inspire you, I've failed. I want you to aspire to something much greater than you're doing in this very minute.
So that means also that actually the conversation and the communication goes into a pretty new way, because especially me as a communication specialist as well, and as a book author on the super yacht sales, I just realized now in this speak with you that aspiration is something that it's not new, but it's new now that comes in action. I think you are the one that actually brought it up and brings it into the market. And I think that will be a big shift in the market, not only in the real estate, but I think everywhere. Because
yes,
what I realize now in these days, especially because of that, what happens now, A lot of people are feeling lost. They have no clue anymore where is the future. And they still trying to keep themselves on inspiration and motivation. And it looks
Right.
it doesn't work. It doesn't work really well.
Well, here's what happens, and this is something I've studied for now years, and tune in. So let's say you're watching this and you're a yacht broker, and you can say to the mirror, or you can say to your wife or husband, I'm motivated to be the best yacht broker. Okay, guess what? Motivation washes off and goes down the drain with the soap at night. It does not last. Human beings, the way our synapses are wired, that's why there's a multi-billion-dollar industry built around motivation, because if it lasted, there would be no industry built around motivation. So when you take a shower tonight and you watch that soap go down the drain, most of the motivation that you got during the day will be gone. Then we move to inspiration, Walter. Inspiration, so if you read an inspirational book or if you watch an inspirational movie, that lasts for about as long as a bad sunburn. So if you are in the sun, you get burned, it might last 2 weeks and then it peels and you're back to normal. Inspiration isn't the answer either. So you can't be inspired to be the best yacht broker. What you can do, and this is where the alteration of the DNA comes in, you can look at the mirror or your significant other and say, I aspire to be the world's #1 yacht broker. That is a bold statement that you would make. So I have said to myself, I aspire to be a real estate artist. I aspire to finish the toughest foot race in the world, according to National Geographic, and I've done that 7 times. I aspire to be a best-selling author, although I never went to school. When you boldly make that statement, I aspire to be the #1 yacht broker, let's start in Switzerland, the #1 yacht broker in Switzerland, you won't be motivated every day to do that, nor will you be inspired every day to do that. But that aspiration that you've declared is like a Fabergé egg. It is sacred. So I'm not motivated every day to go build a beautiful multi-million-dollar house. I'm not motivated every day to get up and train for that 135-mile race. But I don't lose that aspiration, that sacred aspiration to be a best-selling author or be a real estate artist or be the best yacht brokerage coach in the world. That is sacred. That's where it's different, Walter. You will not stay motivated or inspired to do that. But declare the aspiration, and that's what I talk about in the first section of my book, getting those out there and how to make sure that those become a reality through the creating of your own reality, not following somebody else's. You create your own, and then in turn, the whole DNA shifts, and you then are the #1 yacht broker in Switzerland.
Well, honestly, I can't wait to have this book in my hand to go through that, because it really aspires me already. Not only inspired, but it looks like then aspiration is like the roof of everything. And below that are all the other topics like motivation, inspiration,
Yes.
whatever you name it.
Yes, that's a very good analogy. That's a very good visual, because motivation and inspiration will ignite aspiration, but they don't sustain it by itself. You cannot live on motivation. Like man cannot live on bread alone. You cannot live on motivation and inspiration alone. The roof that you just described is covering over all the days that you don't feel like getting up and being the best yacht broker in the world. You will find that once you convert that DNA and you create that reality for yourself. I mean, I'm not just theorizing here. This is something I have done in 5 areas of my life, and others that I looked up to that I've referenced in this book have done, and it's not theory. It's proven. I don't even want to say science. It's just proven life, the way to live your life.
Actually, praxis for the praxis, something like that.
Yes.
Well, for the listeners as well, it is for me is pretty important to know that by buying a book, it's not just buying a book. Behind the whole process, you have set up something really amazing, because I have written that you have made, what was it, 29 self-sufficient villages, which maybe need some explanation for those who don't understand what that means and what the book will support by getting it sold.
Keep it very simple again. We just talked about your professional highest calling. Yours is being a yacht brokerage coach, mine being a real estate artist. What's your spiritual highest calling? This is something that the book asks you to address. And my spiritual highest calling that I had no idea that even existed, let alone what was it, until my mid to late 30s. We build self-sustaining villages in the poorest country in the world, that being Haiti. When I say self-sustaining, self-sufficient, that means they have free enterprise and capitalism in place so that once they're built, they sustain upon themselves. We coined the phrase philanthro-capitalist, taking the best of philanthropy, the best of capitalism, putting together in one hyphenated word, bringing it to the poorest country in the world, and it's worked. You're right, 29 self-sufficient villages, 12,800 children that were starving and dying now have a beautiful roof over their head and a self-sustaining life that will go on generations. That's the legacy I will leave, Walter. It won't be the beautiful houses. It will be the generations of families in Haiti that we have turned around and saved lives for. So getting back to the book, and any of my books for that matter, if you go to my website, I got 6 other books if you can't wait for this one. One book provides 200 meals in one of our villages in Haiti. Because most of these children, if this were, like a hamburger, most of these children are eating dirt flavored with bouillon and lemon juice. Dirt flavored with bouillon and lemon juice. So one book provides 200 meals, 2-part carbohydrate, 1 part protein in one of our villages.
So to me, that means also that this is not only a value for the reader, it's a value for everybody who somehow in any way within this process of sales or selling and buying and stuff like that. So for those who listen here now, really, I think that's the opportunity to go for and get 1, 2, 3, or 7 of the books of Frank McKinney. It's not about getting rich for him. It's about getting it done with further and other and more helping activities such as those villages. And if you have heard now what his legacy is, to really leave a place, not only one, but a lot of the places, in a way that people can appreciate what he has done, and without being noticed as the one who did it. So very selfless, is that correct?
Yeah, so I mean, I make no money from the books, by the way. All the money goes to the Caring House Project. I made my money in real estate. I feel it is my responsibility. It's my stewardship. It's my spiritual highest calling to be doing this over in Haiti. And I don't like to do black tie events or cocktail parties or golf outings to raise money. I sell books, or I go to like events like I met you at in California, and I'm paid to go there. Actually, I'm not paid. The money goes to the Caring House Project Foundation. So, if you're listening and watching, take some time to think about what is your spiritual highest calling? What did God put you on the earth to do for others? That's the only difference. The professional highest calling is what God put you on the earth to do for yourself, making money for yourself. Your spiritual highest calling is God putting you on the earth to do something for others. And what a beautiful awakening, an epiphanous awakening for me when I realized I had a spiritual highest calling, and it gave life to a soul that was pretty tired at the time, Walter. I was pretty down and out, and even though I was doing well professionally, personally, I wasn't doing well. Mm-hmm. And when I found that spiritual highest calling, which was over 20 years ago, things have been pretty good.
Incredible. Now, what I want to bring in now for a moment is, for a minute or two, the movie that you have done for this book, Aspire. Let's see it here.
Hello, friends. It's Frank McKinney, and it's time. Are you ready for the big reveal of my 7th book? I know I am. This is for you. Aspire. How to create your own reality and alter your DNA. Well, I say let's fire up this reality and aspire to break through it. Oh yeah, together. Well, that was hot. Literally. Listen, I can't wait to share my new book with you. 5 sections, 25 chapters of all I've aspired to and learned to help you create your own reality, alter your DNA, and when the dust settles, succeed. You think this was exciting? Well, wait until you read Aspire.
Now, as you have seen that movie, it is absolutely about taking also risks, because it's not for everybody, or not everybody would go on a motorbike, let him fire up by himself from somebody else, and then riding through a place which there is more fire even, without knowing what is afterwards, what happens afterwards. Is that part of how you live your life, risk-wise, also with the building that you build, your houses, and not even having a buyer? Is that part of the risk that you take every time you start up?
So as you watch that trailer for my book, there's a method to the madness. There is a metaphor to what you just witnessed, and that was I was afraid because I had never done that before. There was really only 2 takes because you saw the book cover on fire. I only had 2 book covers, so we had 2 shots to get it right, and we had to use both because the first shot didn't look as good. So in my book Aspire, I talk about fear as it relates to risk. So as you're looking at that video, you're thinking, wow, that's risky. Wow, I could never do that. And that's fine. But I was feeling the same way. I was feeling the same way when I built my first oceanfront house for $2 million. I was feeling the same way when I ran across the desert doing my 135-mile race for the first time. I felt the same way when I put my first book out 19 years ago. Please take your pen out or record this and remember that fear is associated with the thought of taking a risk, not with the actual taking of the risk. So as I'm sitting on the motorbike and I'm lit on fire and I'm delivering my lines to the camera, you better believe my heart was jumping out of my chest out of the fear of thinking about what was about to happen. Now, Walter, after I was lit on fire and rode around and it was clear there's no stunt double, that was me. That's why that was done in 1 take. I rode through the fire and I got back and I took my helmet off. Guess what was gone? The fear. Because I had taken the risk. The primary advantage I have in my business, which is a highly risky business, building a house without a buyer, is I don't let fear stop me. Am I afraid every day? Yes. But just like on that motorbike, when you execute on something that you decide is risky and you overcome the fear, you never get over it, but you just kind of you use it as fuel. Life becomes very exciting. Like when I was done with that, was I still afraid? No, I was exciting. I was jubilant. I was excited. I was jubilant. I was joyful. Mm-hmm. That's how it is in business. If you never take the risk and you're succumbing to the sensation of fear, where are you going to be next year? Get used to being afraid, execute on the risk, and you'll want to take that ride over and over and over again. Your risk is almost like a muscle. You exercise the risk tolerance like a muscle, your risk threshold. Mm-hmm. Eventually it becomes stronger and it will be able to withstand greater pressure. That's the key thing to holding people back today, Walter, is the fear associated with the thought of taking a risk in business, in your personal life, going out on that date, getting on a diet, going to church. All these risks that we think about, we end up not taking any action because of the sensation of fear.
So in this regard, what would you say, how important is coaching, as a lot of people don't know that, how to exercise?
Well, like it's really hard. I had many mentors in my life that helped me overcome. I don't even want to use the word overcome. I'm still afraid every day of my life, but I don't let it stop me. How's that? Then I'm just human. I'm being a human being. The next project, well, I'm retired from real estate now, but the next book or the next race or whatever it is that I do, I'm sure I'll feel fear. But then I know, Walter, why am I feeling fear? Because I'm thinking about taking a risk. Why am I thinking about taking a risk? Because, and this is where everybody listening and watching can relate, I want a big change or a big challenge in my life. I want a relational change, a financial change, a spiritual change. I want a physical challenge. So risk equals fear, but that risk is always associated with a big change or big challenge. You got to take the risk to have the benefits of the big change or big challenge. Not all of them will work out. They won't. You will fail sometimes, but I'll tell you what, when you're sitting on your front porch and you're 90 years old and you're in a rocking chair, everybody listening, everybody watching will have regrets. You will. Frank McKinney, Walter will have regrets. Regret what you did, not what you didn't do. I wish I would have rode that motorcycle through that flame back when I was younger. I never want to say that. Now, would I mind saying, what was I thinking? I lit on fire and I got third-degree burns over all my body. That was really not a smart, but I did it. I overcame the fear and I did it. If we have regrets, which all of us will, regret what you did, not what you didn't do.
This is one of the greatest lessons that I ever heard. And I don't want to go now deeper into that because that would take hours and hours. But for you listeners, get that book. What you heard here right now was just a little fraction of everything that you can learn from out of that book. And perhaps you get in touch as well for other purposes with Frank McKinney. So you will find his connections or contacts, which is the website. So maybe you want to buy a house, who knows? Here it is. And now I think we're going to the end, Frank, because we got to wrap up this one. And thank you very much. It was a real pleasure. It was an honor to me, and it was so great lessons that I heard as well from you, which is a huge value for other people. I want to give you the last word.
Well, all I can say is, Walter, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me over to Switzerland. Thank you for, listen, if you are watching this or listening to this and you're thinking about working with Walter to become a better yacht broker, I mean, this man is one of the smartest, he absorbs information very, very quickly. We've just met not long ago and we've corresponded a few times. The super yacht man, I see this big, like if he were to tear his shirt open, there would be an S right there for super yacht man, because that's what he is. And I'm honored that you gave me a little bit of time to talk about my passion, what I love to do. And I hope people, like you said, you'll put up the links. If you do go to my website, it's been called Disney on a Desktop, because there's so many things there. The houses we built on the ocean, like Walter mentioned, you might want to buy a house. You can build a house with me in Haiti for $4,800 US. A whole house for a family of 8 for $4,800 US. That's a beautiful concrete house for next to nothing. So you can see what we're doing in Haiti. You can read about my books. You can read about my races. There's videos up there. There's free chapters up there. So go to Disney on a Desktop. Walter will put the link in, and I wish you the best with your yacht brokerage, coaching, and with those of you who are coached by Walter, you're being coached by the best.
Thank you very much for your really great words. And I hope that you will have many, many more years. Great success. I have no doubt about that. And this was now the Walter Schmidt Show from Switzerland with Frank McKinney. And we're going forward for the next chapter in our lives. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.